We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome in. It's a Wednesday here on the Roundtable. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates and the Blue Raider Network. And it is the morning after the nationwide presidential election and this presidential cycle. It is the hay is now in the barn, and it is in the books. And Donald Trump has gone from being former president to president-elect. And we've got some really interesting insight coming up this hour, and tickled to have Dr. Larry Burris of the College of Media and Entertainment on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University to kind of help us dive in and talk about what happened, how it was covered, and just kind of get some general thoughts. But Larry, good to see you again.
Good to be here again.
It's been I have seen you since I was in your classroom a few years ago,
a couple of years ago.
But we cross, and folks here that listen to WGNS. We'll hear you with commentaries that are, 1 minute to 2 minute commentaries with some really interesting thoughts. Your latest one, I think, is about AI, yep. And people can hear it, and you can find it on wgnsradio.com. But the presidential election, obviously, it's a 2-year run up to a 1-day event,
right?
And that came yesterday. It is pretty obvious that the country was wanting to bring back Donald Trump into the office of the presidency. I think late last night, the first 4 hours or so of polls closing, the states that fell to each candidate was pretty much right down what you would expect. Then it came down what is going to happen with Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. A couple of those are still out, but the big prize, I think the first early big prize was Florida.
Florida, right? And
then after I stayed up till midnight, and Pennsylvania had not been called yet, but Georgia had. And so they all went, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, all went Trump's way. And that seemed to be where the dam broke.
Right. Well, I thought it was particularly interesting that here we had a total change in government. Mm-hmm. Total change. A massive change in the Congress. And throughout all that, there were no tanks in the streets. Right. There was no riding around. There was nobody really protesting. It was It was worldwide American democracy in action. Here you're going to totally change the government, and you wake up the next morning. It's been a change. And, well, okay, and you get on with your life. The stock market's gone up, but most people that I know of went to work. Okay, they're talking about it, but again, that's how democracy is supposed to work. Prime example. Yep, right there. Yep,
and as we work our way toward January 20th, and the peaceful transfer of power that will take place is what you were proud of in this country. So, how did this happen? And what was the and Trump calls it his mandate, and I think when you look at where the popular vote is falling as well as the Electoral College, he has a claim to that.
Right, absolutely. I think something I thought was particularly interesting that the pollsters once again got it wrong.
Yeah.
That we've got all these polls out there, and it's going to be really close, and it's going to be weeks before we know who won the election, and we're not going to be able to tell. It's going to be 49-49 and a couple 1 or 2% somewhere else. Pollsters got it wrong again. So you got to go with, here's the vote is what counts.
Yep, it does. And, when I sent you an email to set up coming on here, I said, if we have a result, but I really had no expectation that we would be as clear of where we are at 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, as it's turned out to be.
The people have spoken, and we have the election. We've got the numbers out there. The president, I don't know if mandate's quite the right word, but he's got the Senate. Probably going to end up with the House of Representatives, unless we're going to see some changes in programs. The American people voted. Here's what they want. Okay, good. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, it is, and the system did work. Whichever side you were on, you have to be, and like you said, there weren't tanks in the streets and that kind of thing. So interesting that as time has gone along, and I always harken back to my days of being in journalism classes, and how I was taught. Basically we were taught how to write news stories like the Associated Press. It was, kind of dragnet style.
Sure,
just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Just the facts.
And going down, and it is amazing how, the different quote unquote news outlets have their own slant, and like, Fox News and MSNBC could not be more different.
Exactly.
And there's so many other news outlets out there. Obviously, you have Fox, MSNBC, CBS now, and ABC both have their 24-hour channels, as well as CNN. News Nation is out there. When you are a sampler of the news across the dial, who did you find yourself gravitating toward to get your coverage last night?
I did a lot of channel surfing, usually between
I did too.
Yeah, between CNN and Fox. Just kind of kept going back and forth, and both of them, I think, they have all the new technologies. And I got to kind of wonder if all that technology and the magic screen that they had, well, okay, that's hardly news where they've got a magic screen up here. But I remember one particular instance, they were talking about Winnebago County, and how in 2020, Winnebago County had split between male and female voters of a certain age. And I'm thinking, yeah, so, but the fact that they can do that, and they do it, and I got to wonder, what's the point? Whatever happened in 2020 happened a long time ago, 4 years ago. What's going on right now? And I think most of the networks out there were doing the same sort of thing. Lots and lots of talking about things that really didn't matter a whole lot.
Yeah, and and sometimes I wonder, do we get too much detail? There was one. Again, I can't remember whose magic screen it was last night, but obviously Steve Karnakis on NBC has become he's become an election star that they've even pulled over into sports to do things with his magic screen.
Right.
But there was one where they went to a county, then to a neighborhood, and then to an actual address, and one of the people who lived in that house and how he had voted over the past couple of presidential cycles, and they have determined which 25 counties across the country are the bellwethers that have chosen the president over the last three elections. Only 3 counties had done that. So interesting how all that comes about, but the detail, and it's also interesting how the networks, depending on what their slant is, as the night went along, how they had to kind of scotch their arguments a little bit.
Because the polls had said one thing, but the public saying something else, and you're absolutely right. They had to do a lot of adjusting to kind of keep the story in their particular frame, CNN or Fox, but at the same time understand that here's what the reality of what's going on out there. And I don't know that they were really prepared for that. I imagine both sides probably had their standard stories ready to go, and the facts weren't fitting the narrative.
Well, I think you're right, because to me, and again, I went to bed about midnight. Brian Barrett was on the radio here giving local results, which we'll talk about that more as we go. But I think you're right. There was a bit of a stunned perspective in that I think you're exactly right that they weren't quite ready for, how it went so heavily toward the former president as opposed to the vice president, and they were kind of searching for answers at that point, or as they like to say on there, the path to 270. They were
Right.
They were looking at all of the different routes that could go with what was left, and as the funnel kept getting smaller and smaller, the paths became fewer and fewer.
Exactly. You obviously do sports, and you have a book out there during the game, and it sort of tells you, okay, go this way or go that way. And I think that happened on the networks as well. So I would imagine that, again, Fox and CNN had a playbook, and on that playbook was a page that said, whichever it was, if Trump is winning, say this. If Kamala Harris is winning, say this. And they were assuming it was going to be real close. You kind of flipped back and forth, and you could try to find the reason, try to explain it or explain it away, and it just wasn't working. And I saw several times they were sort of fumbling around trying to figure out, what do we do with this? It's not going according to the playbook that the pollsters, their own pollsters, had told them what was going on.
Yeah, and so let's kind of roll back a little bit and how this all got set up to where it was. Number one, I think the big shoe that dropped was when President Biden decided not to run, which is not 100% unprecedented, but we go back to Lyndon Johnson, and who had been the only one to ever do that, but he did it in March, not in whatever it was, June or July. So
and there were no questions, I think, about President Johnson's capability. He was in a political situation involving the war in Vietnam and realized that he was probably going to lose the election. So let's concentrate on the war and what it is we're doing. And he said that he was going to spend his time trying to deal with the war in Southeast Asia. And everybody kind of knew that he's going to concentrate on this as president. So it was a very presidential thing to do. But to drop out because you can't do the job is something else entirely. And again, I think both sides try to spin that for their own particular position. So one side, and you can figure that out, one side is saying he helped democracy by dropping out. And the other side saying he's incompetent, he should have gotten out a long time ago. Well, okay. So again, and the public, I think, was understanding what was going on. And I think most of the time the public sees that it's being spun by one side or the other.
Yeah. And then, I think the other big item that came along was the assassination attempt and how that played out. Did that, number one, embolden Mr. Trump, and also did it galvanize what was already a pretty well galvanized group of support?
I think that the public was already split. I think what the assassination attempt did, a lot of people were saying, I can't believe this is happening here. We can say bad things about each other. We can impugn their reputation. We can call them horrible names, but you don't shoot them. And again, that's that third world kind of mentality. I think a lot of people were shocked by the idea that this could happen here.
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump is the president-elect, and he has spoken to the country. We expect Kamala Harris to give a concession speech sometime later this morning. We've got a couple of guests coming up in our next segment to join Dr. Burris and myself. Alan Farley will give us some numbers on how Rutherford Countyans voted. Also, we'll hear from Chris Davis of News Channel 5. What is the Big Nickel covering today, and how are they? How is their coverage post-election? And that's all coming up here on The Big G, WGNS. Efficient 3-bedroom, 3-bath home located in the highly sought-after Black Fox Crossing neighborhood. Enjoy the convenience of 2 primary suites and a 2-car garage. Recent updates include new flooring in the living areas and bedrooms, as well as fresh paint throughout. This home comes fully equipped with appliances, including a washer, dryer, and an extra fridge in the garage. For more information, call Chip Walters at Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates 615-542-1915.
Parents, you can help your child sharpen their basketball skills while also encouraging positive spiritual change with First Shot Basketball Skills Academy and Winter League. Sign-ups are happening now. Led by Coach Andy Herzer, this teaching league is designed to build strong foundations not just for athletics, but for life. If your child is between 5 and 14 years old, they can participate at Hooptown this winter. Don't wait, spots are filling up fast. For more information and to sign up, visit firstshottn.org. That's firstshottn.org.
Are you tired of feeling like just another number with your insurance provider? At Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, Agent Rick Hall prides himself on offering personalized service that puts you first. Every client's needs are unique. From personal home and auto coverage to tailored business insurance, Rick Hall's got you covered. Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, where you're more than just a policy number. You're a neighbor.
Fall has risen. Soon I will satisfy my thirst for a win. And there is only one way to do it, by playing the new October instant games from the Tennessee Lottery. Fly by your nearest Tennessee Lottery retailer for some instant fun. I'll meet you there. You can count on it.
With October Instant Games, you could sink your teeth into top prizes of up to $500,000. Only from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
Big benefits at Adams Place.
We have a driver who's here from 8 to 4. He will take you anywhere you need to go.
That's Charlotte Gardner.
It's really a big plus getting around when you do not drive.
Move to Adams Place and leave the driving to us.
Hi, this is Terry Deal at Adams Place. Call me for more information about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111.
On Memorial.
Across from Walmart.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
I've got pests, bees, buzzing rodents running all through my house. Ants chewing wood, and look, there's a mouse. I'm overrun with pests, but you're gonna be sure, safe and secure. It's the last rites for those pests. Call the best of the best to get rid of your pests.
893-7111. AmeriCare Services Incorporated. Call us today. 893-7111.
Now WGNS Good Neighbor Events. Learn more about local history. Head over to the one-room Ransom Schoolhouse every Saturday morning from 9 until noon. It's all free, including the coffee and donuts. Local history talks by members of the Rutherford County Historical Society. That's Saturday mornings, 9 until noon. And Ransom School is at 717 North Academy Street. There are some great plays to enjoy. Beautiful, the Carole King musical. That's playing at the Center for the Arts in Uptown Murfreesboro, along with the classic Guys and Dolls at the Arts Center of Cannon County in neighboring Woodbury. And John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men is performed by Bravo Borough. That's at the Mills Pate Arts Center on the Old Nashville Highway. We also remind you that the Red Cross is critically low on blood. So please give the gift of life to our local Red Cross. Right now, phone them and set up an appointment to give blood at a time that fits your schedule. Phone 800-RED-CROSS. WGNS is happy to list your Good Neighbor events. Try to get them to us a month before they happen. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here this afternoon. Partial sunshine develops, a high in the low 80s. Tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 65. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 71.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios, MTE Sharing Change has now donated more than $11 million to local nonprofits assisting worthy causes in our community. MTE, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Wednesday Roundtable. It is an Election Day rehash. And Dr. Larry Burris is our guest in studio, but we're fortunate to have a couple of friends of the show to spend some about 5 good minutes with us. The first of those is Alan Farley of the Rutherford County Election Commission. And Alan, you had a pretty quiet day, and for someone in the election business, that's not a bad thing.
Absolutely not, Chip. I like to call myself the Maytag repairman on election day.
Well, talk a little bit. Let's give us some numbers on how Rutherford Countyans turned out, and how the early vote helped you guys be able to process so many voters.
Well, actually, we had 66% total turnout of our registered voters, and which is somewhat disappointing. We had a record number of voters that voted, with 148,547. But I was really hoping we would hit. Actually, my estimation was we'd vote 160, but we fell short of that. But we were 74% turnout in 2020. But of that, 79% of our total vote came during the 2.5 weeks of early voting, which, to me, trying to process 148,000 people in one day is an impossible task. So it's good to have the early voting schedule that we do. But in 2020, we had 83%. Of course, now we had a lot of absentee ballots cast in 2020 because of the pandemic, but we had 83%. So that held true. So I was very, very pleased with our early voting turnout.
And those are, again, when the last time you were on here about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked about that, and you expected somewhere around 72%, but at 68%, still it's a much better number than what we get for elections that are in the non-presidential cycle, and it was a fairly short ballot this time around.
Yeah, very quick. Very quick ballot. It didn't take long for our voters to vote it. You had the electors for president, you had the U.S. Senate, and you had Congress, and then some people in the county had a state senator question, and then you had the state house member. So it was very quick and very easy to move people through.
And we're able to buy liquor in Eagleville now.
Absolutely. So I said last night, I guess they'll be celebrating that and here after we certify, they'll be able to start that process.
Absolutely. Were there any issues, whether it was technical or security-wise, across the county?
No, I was very pleased with our plan. We executed it perfectly. And for a presidential, you always have blips here and there, because we spend more time dealing with people who have never registered, or they have registered and haven't voted in the last 20 years or whatever. So you spend a lot of time with that. We had a lot of provisional ballots, because if somebody was in question, we went ahead and got a ballot cast, and then we'll sort it out, post-election. So, but everything went smooth. I call them our volunteer poll officials. We do compensate them nowhere near what they're worth, but these people volunteer their time. They did an excellent job. Our election staff did a terrific job, and so compared to, at 8:33 last night, at 8:33, everybody had reported, and we were wrapping up to start our process to go home, which we got out of here about 9:45 last night.
That's 93 minutes after the polls closed. That's pretty impressive, Larry.
Yeah, that's how it's like you say, to take all those numbers and get them run as smoothly as you did is a credit to the system that we have here.
Yes, and it is. And one thing that I like, of course, we were able to pioneer this, was the convenient vote center. So you don't have where people show up at the wrong polling place and have those issues. So that really makes it flow a lot smoother too. And so so our people responded. They were able to process. And my staff gets mad at me. I'm a logistics guy. I'm kind of a logistics nerd. And of course, I'm already sitting here looking at things this morning. Okay, what did we implement? What worked? What didn't work as well as we thought? So what can we start focusing on? Because now my mind is already turning toward 2026, our next elections. But we still have to do the certification and the audit process. But my mind is kind of running a dual track, focusing on getting this one in the books, but also, too, while it's fresh in our mind, making sure that we can make those necessary changes and adjustments to better serve our voters.
All right, Alan, thanks so much, and congratulations to you and your staff of All-Stars because I did not hear one peep out of anybody who went through the process during the early or yesterday that they had anything less than a fantastic experience.
That's great to hear, and that's what we love to hear. So, not everybody won the votes that they cast, but the main thing is they had a chance to express their voice, and that's what we're here for.
All right. Thank you much. Alan Farley of the Rutherford County Election Commission. And now we move up I-24 and joining us now from News Channel 5, friend of the show, Chris Davis. Chris, how are you?
I'm running on empty, as the song goes, from late last night.
A little Jackson Brown reference this morning.
That's right.
Well, tell us, where were you posted last night for folks who weren't watching the Big Nickel?
I was following along with Senator Marsha Blackburn's re-election watch party, and there wasn't much suspense for that race. Polls closed at 7, and by 7:04, it had been called in her favor, and she gave a speech, and we went on with the night.
Nobody dropped any china or anything around the party, did they?
No plates were thrown, but that reference was definitely made.
Well, give us a little inside the newsroom from last night at Channel 5. Obviously, the congressional elections across the mid-state, all the incumbents were winners, including Scott Desjardins here. Mark Green's race a little interesting, and Andy Ogles kind of unbelievably drew a higher percentage this time than he did the first time.
Absolutely. I would say the headline is no surprises, at least at the local level. Like you mentioned, none of the congressional seats changed hands. At the state legislature level, while there will be new faces because there are retirements and there were some primary upsets, the same number of Republicans and Democrats are being sent back to Nashville. 75 Republicans, supermajority in the Tennessee House. Democrats held on to the seats that they needed to hold on to. Republicans held on to the seats they needed to, and virtually no change other than the primary upset over in the Tennessee Senate. So there have definitely been evenings on election watch where there's suspense. Not much last night.
So what is what was the mood once you left Marsha Blackburn's watch party and went back to the station there on James Robertson Parkway, and what was the mood around the newsroom at Channel 5 with the national story and how it was unfolding?
Well, I think like a lot of Americans, we were just kind of glued to the TV of what is going to happen next. And, once it became apparent that the so-called blue wall for the Democrats up in the upper Midwest was not going to hold for Harris, I know I went to bed last night thinking we'll probably wake up with the announcement that President Trump is back in the White House. And sure enough, that's what all the news alerts said when my alarm went off this morning.
We've talked a little bit about sports and those sorts of things. The audience out here generally sees you all on camera. Can you kind of fill us in a little bit? What's going on behind the scenes? What kind of prep is being done? What do you all have in front of you that we, the audience, may not see that helps you all get through this sort of thing?
Sure. I mean, from a numbers standpoint, a lot of our people back in the newsroom are glued to the Secretary of State's office website, which you as viewers can also follow along with. And as counties report their numbers, at least on the local level, that's how we can help spread that out to the rest of our viewers. At least in Davidson County, we have some ways to be able to get some of those returns a little bit earlier. We have some people that head out to some of the key precincts and can get that report a little bit quicker upstream, so to say. Like as they're reporting them to the state, we're getting those out as well. We don't have to wait for the state to publish that data. So I think that's kind of the interesting aspect from the local races. I spent most of my evening at Senator Blackburn's campaign party because that was also doubling as the Tennessee Republican official watch party. So I didn't have as much involvement with the numbers last night as just kind of getting reaction from state leaders because, as you might imagine, with it being the official party, all of the who's who of the Tennessee Republican Party, including the governor and the Senate Majority Leader and others, were all in attendance last night.
One of the things we've talked about this morning was how in the national race the polling numbers were not right again. Going into the statewide race, was it a completely foregone conclusion of how that was going to flow, or were the numbers a little off there as well?
You know, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to some of our local polls, but I know that the Beacon Center, which is a right-leaning organization, did a poll a couple months ago and said that Senator Blackburn at least had a 20 to 30 point lead over Representative Gloria Johnson, and that's about what the numbers shaped up to be. I do think that overall it seems like polling, the science of polling is getting harder and harder to do. I've read articles that say, people don't, a lot of people don't have home phone numbers anymore, and cell phone numbers aren't as plentiful for them to pull from. So it's harder to get that larger sample size to be able to get, an accurate representation of polling. I think also there's been a lot of journalism done on, is it harder to poll of who actually supports former President Trump, now President-elect Trump. So I think it's an interesting time for that whole industry of, the reliability of some of those polls. They used to be pretty good bellwethers in the past, maybe not so moving forward, or they're going to have to find a better methodology to be able to find that sample size.
Well, I'm sure the morning meeting has already taken place in the newsroom at Channel 5, and the assignments for the day have gone out. And so what are the stories that we'll be seeing throughout this 24-hour news cycle that you guys will be generating locally and we'll see on the news tonight at 5, 6, and 10?
Chip, normally I would be laser focused on election reaction today, but state lawmakers are wasting no time jumping into what they're going to do for this next legislative session. And at 8 a.m. this morning, both the House and the Senate posted their version of their second attempt to pass statewide school voucher expansion. So we have the language now of what the new attempt to put that program in place will be. So as soon as can get everything kind of settled and interviews set, we're heading up to the state capitol to talk to lawmakers about this new push. This has definitely been a big project that Governor Bill Lee has wanted to pass from the very beginning. He and his team think that this year is their best shot, if they have one, to do it. And it appears some of the infighting within the Tennessee Republican Party between the Tennessee House and the Tennessee Senate may not be as sharp-elbowed as it was last year. They may have a unified plan going into this year. So that's going to be what I'm covering. The transit referendum in Davidson County will be a big storyline for our Nashville audience, and then just kind of getting reaction to some of the other election outcomes, including the presidential race, will definitely be topics we'll be discussing today.
Well, I'm speaking of the transportation plan in Nashville. It doesn't surprise me that it passed, but it kind of surprised me at the ease in which it passed.
I think you're not the only one, Chip, given that previous transit referendums have failed miserably in Davidson County. That I think was a pause for a lot of people of how is this going to turn out. It turns out that this went much differently. I think it has a lot to do with what they're trying to do. Some of the other plans that have gone before it, like the AMP, that was the designated bus lanes, and then the underground light rail under the Berry administration. I think a lot of voters thought that was just way too much money and way too ambitious. So maybe the scale of this plan fared better. You also just didn't see, there was obviously opposition to it. You saw some yard signs and a few ads late in the cycle against it, but there wasn't this just uniform opposition to it that we've seen in some of the previous transit plans that have gone before national voters.
Dr. Burris, does he get a passing grade today?
So far, I have a question. I guess some of my journalism students said they were going to put together a listening party for me this morning to give a shout out to them. I'm kind of wondering, though, for my journalism students, can you kind of explain to them and the general audience as well, yesterday morning, when did you start and when did you end and when did you start over again today? What was your day like?
Sure. So because they knew that I would be covering Senator Blackburn's watch party, I normally work a dayside shift in TV news, so I normally work 9:30 to 6 or so, or whenever the work gets done for the day. But I shifted to more of an evening shift yesterday, so I came in at 1:30 in the afternoon, got some of our stories ready for the early newscast before polls closed, just kind of giving the background on who these candidates were in the race. And then we were obviously at the watch party through our 10 o'clock newscast, did a hit at the top of the 10 o'clock newscast last night, and then came back to the station to make sure we had our web story up and all that. And our morning show is ready to go because they worked throughout the middle of the night to get the morning show ready. So we made sure they had the resources they needed to be able to cover the story this morning. And then so I was home by around 11:30, and then I'm back in the building this morning to back on my normal shift.
So a real shock to my students and maybe some of the audience. You mean there are people there real early in the morning?
Yes. Those that don't enjoy your 8 o'clock classes perhaps should not work for morning TV, because the producers for the morning show, actually, some of them get there at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night and work throughout the overnight hours to have all the scripts and things prepared for the morning show. And then if you're a morning show reporter, your alarm clock's sometimes 2 or 3 a.m. So they're the heroes in our newsroom. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. You're a good man. Thanks for coming on, my buddy.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for your coverage on all this important stuff.
Good deal. All right, Chris Davis, News Channel 5, joining us. We'll take a break. We've got one more special guest coming, and Dr. Burris and I will head toward the top of the hour as we do a little postmortem on Election Day 2024 here on WGNS.
Do you have a special needs child or an older adult in your home? The risk of them leaving the house unnoticed is real and terrifying, but you can protect your loved ones with Vivint Home Security. Right now, Vivint is offering a free doorbell camera with any new plan, plus free installation and low monthly monitoring plans. Call 800-953-6693. That's 800-953-6693. Monthly service agreement required for free installation.
Do you have a special needs child or an older adult in your home? The risk of them leaving the house unnoticed is real and terrifying, but you can protect your loved ones with Vivint Home Security. Right now, Vivint is offering a free doorbell camera with any new plan, plus free installation and low monthly monitoring plans. Call 800-953-6693. That's 800-953-6693. Monthly service agreement required for free installation.
Alright guys, if you're only middle-aged but wondering why it seems harder to keep up, you're not alone. It may be caused by low testosterone. Testosterone therapy, or TRT, can help you get back to your best. But not just any TRT, not those websites offering only basic treatments. You have to see the provider specialist at Low T Center. They offer advanced personalized treatments with over a decade of experience. At Low T Center, you'll start with a simple test and get your results in about 25 minutes. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Pastor Nikki Ajapong, the lead pastor of Holy Hill Chapel in Murfreesboro.
Here are sermons on WGNS every Sunday night at 7:30.
Our congregation is made up of a variety of nationalities.
Visit holyhillchapeltn.org to hear our podcast.
At Bud's Tire Pros, we sell all major brands of tires, and we invite you to stop by today for that next set of tires. Or maybe you need us to check out your vehicle before you head out of town. We offer everything from brakes to batteries, alignments, and more. No appointments necessary. Just stop on by.
I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstireprostn.com.
Hi, this is Taylor at Bell Jewelers. And speaking of custom, it does take several weeks to get the project started, especially counting the number of stones that the client has to use, getting exact measurements. So here at Bell Jewelers, we encourage you to come in sooner rather than later to get the ball rolling on any custom project you think you may even want to do, just so we get it in time for Christmas. Bell Jewelers, 821 Northwest Broad Street, across from Toots.
Premier 6 Theater on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Let's all go to the movies.
Check out what's showing at murfreesboromovies.com. Popcorn popped fresh daily.
Movies at the good old
Premier 6 on Broad in Jackson Heights.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Wednesday Roundtable. Chip Walters here along with Dr. Larry Burris of the College of Media and Entertainment at MTSU. And joining us now from parts unknown, but covering the State House and State Senate and state government from the Tennessee Lookout, Sam Stockard. And Sam, it was basically a fairly quiet night as far as Senate and House elections across the state. No major surprises. Is that correct?
Well, as it turned out, it was sort of a status quo type election, but I think there was probably a big impact by former President Trump, not quite President Trump again yet. No movement in the House, and I don't think there was much to speak of in the Senate either. There were three races that were targeted nationally by Democrats in Clarksville. Two in Clarksville and one in Memphis, and those didn't change. Representative Ronnie Glenn barely won over Peltz. I mean, it was really tight, like 130 votes or something like that. And then Burkhart beat Allie Phillips in District 75 in Clarksville, although that was really tight, less than 2,000 votes. And then Representative John Gillespie beat Jesse Husa in Memphis by 1,100 votes, something like that. So you had some really tight races there where Mr. Trump probably put the Republicans over the finish line.
So with obviously with the status quo being such as it is, Governor Lee going into the final 2 years of his term, he will basically have again a full House and Senate, at his disposal. It'll be interesting because they kind of have a mind of their own and don't necessarily just ride his coattails.
Well, interestingly enough, they introduced Senate Bill 1 this morning, which is the new private school voucher bill. And it's similar to what was introduced last year, but it looks like it has a little bit broader support from House and Senate leadership. And it also includes $2,000 bonuses for every teacher in the state.
Huh.
And so, I mean, they could be accused of buying the teachers' love. And then there's also 80% of all sports wagering dollars dedicated to building and maintaining K-12 public schools. So they're throwing in some extra state money on school construction or maintenance anyway.
Wow. So what is outside of the $2,000 per teacher? What is the major change in House Bill 1 that makes it more palatable across the aisle?
I don't know that there's a whole lot that makes it more palatable. It's 20,000. They're going to be offering 20,000 scholarships at about $7,000 a pop, and about half of those are going to go to students at or below 300% of the qualifying for free or reduced lunch. Now, it does have something in here. It says it ensures state funding to school districts will never decrease due to disenrollment. So I don't know exactly what that means. I'm just looking at this for the first time and haven't had a chance to parse it and ask questions.
Well, I know. I know locally that's been a big thing. Is that Dr. Jimmy Sullivan here in Rutherford County has expressed, I don't know how to budget, and it seems like at least that part of it right there may help ease that indigestion a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like they're throwing a lot of money at it.
Yeah,
I don't know what the total cost is going to be yet. We'll have to find that out in the next. Well, I hope to find out today.
Dr. Burris, you got anything?
Yeah, what's going to happen with the transportation money? Am I going to see a new sidewalk in my neighborhood next weekend, or it's going to be sometime in the future? What's going to be happening with that money?
Are you talking about in Murfreesboro or Nashville?
Well, Nashville's where the
did you follow that story very much?
Yeah, I think the Metro Nashville vote wound up being 2-1 in favor of
exactly
of Mayor O'Connell's transit plan. I don't know that you can expect a sidewalk to be built next week.
Probably not.
That's pretty quick. I mean, I'll come with a shovel and start digging if you want me.
Sure.
I quit digging ditches about 40 years ago. I'm sure that he has some sort of comprehensive plan that he's got stashed away somewhere that he can bring out pretty soon to start this stuff. I know some of these things have started already. I know over on, I want to say it's either 8th or it might be 12th Avenue. They've already got things with bicycle lanes and barriers to keep cars from running off into the bike lanes and stuff like that. I mean, Nashville's kind of been moving in this direction already for several years.
That's a strictly Metro Nashville issue there, so you all aren't really going to get involved with it at all.
Yeah, but
you're talking about
that program.
Lookout.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we had a story about it today, and then I wrote about all the dark money last week that had been poured into the campaign. The pro transit people don't want to say who provided the money for their campaign, and I think it's probably because there are a lot of Republicans who don't want to be linked to Mayor O'Connell, and they think it's a good idea. They just don't want their name out there as being pro Freddie.
Yeah, I get it. Absolutely. Well, now that the presidential election is over, Sam, your next big assignment will be who is going to come out of the woodwork to run for the governor's office. You have any early favorites for that?
Well, I'm hearing that Congressman Rose is going to be announcing in the next couple of weeks. The Knox County mayor, former wrestler Kane.
Glenn Jacobs, yes.
Yeah,
the big red machine.
Yeah. Is said to be eyeing that. And then, Congressman Mark Green has made overtures in the past, but I don't know that he's all that fired up about it anymore. I have no idea who a Democratic candidate would be right now. I don't even know that it's worth, I hate to be negative, but I don't know that it's worth wasting a whole lot of time and money on that. I mean, considering the results of last night's election, when you're looking at a 70-30 going in, that's pretty tough to overcome. But
yeah,
those are the two that I'm hearing about the most.
Well, obviously, Glenn Jacobs is going to have he's going to have a lot of name recognition, especially when people start to be able to connect the dots for sure. But Sam, I know you got a big day today with post-election and also with H.R. 1 being announced and kind of going through and digesting that. But thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, no problem, Chip.
All right, thank you much.
See you later.
Sam Stockard with the Tennessee Lookout, and Sam is a guy who was with the D&J here for a long, long time, and interesting, with what's going on there, and kind of interesting that they've come out literally the day after the election with the new school voucher bill. That's kind of interesting. I guess they want to capitalize on the momentum, and I guess the question would be, had the election gone the other way, would they be doing that today?
It's kind of hard to tell, but you're right. During the election season, you kind of want to keep things going the way they are. So the general public is in the mood right now for election kinds of things and legislative kinds of things. So the legislature, I think, wants to get going right away.
Yeah. Now, this presidential election, I had a couple of notes I had made I wanted to talk to you about, because you mentioned your students are listening to us this morning, and also there was on the television side, there was the MTSU students did full election coverage last night on MTTV.
Right. Our students are doing real things out there. It's not just sit in the classroom and do it for the class. They're out putting themselves before the public, which for these 17, 18, 19-year-olds can be a real daunting experience. They realize, hey, there may be thousands and thousands of people listening to me, and at some point maybe millions of people listening to them. So we're kind of getting them ready for that.
Well, and here we are sitting on WGNS, which has an over-the-air signal that covers Rutherford County, but we're streaming, and anybody in the world can listen to us on audio. We're on YouTube. They can watch us. And, it's such a visual society. And this election, one of the things that really struck me was from a pop culture standpoint of President-elect Trump had Elon Musk inserted himself so deeply into this. Dana White, who owns the UFC, very big supporter. On the Harris side, Oprah. Those were such big names that there was a huge pop culture slant. I don't know if slant's the right word, but a pop culture influence into this race, and I think that probably helped engage younger folks.
Absolutely, and the students who start out in this, we get them the first couple of days of class, and they want to be on television, want to be on the radio, and then for a lot of them, the first time we put them in front of a camera, we've had some of them freeze. It looks so easy. Just stand there and read the news. Well, no. And so it's a real eye-opener. It's kind of a fun eye-opener for some of them.
And speaking of the pop culture issue, obviously Taylor Swift came out strongly for the vice president. Do you think that had a negative backlash to non-Swifties?
I think probably that the non-Swifties couldn't care less.
Right.
And the Swifties were already headed in that direction anyway. So I kind of wonder how much impact that's having.
And I'm curious, did they actually vote?
Exactly. There's no real way to know.
Right. There is no real way. But, fortunately, and we've talked about it with Alan Farley before, that MTSU has done a really good job over the years of registering voters, registering student voters, and that's always an interesting thing. Do you vote in your hometown, or do you vote where you are here on campus here in Murfreesboro in Rutherford County? But MTSU's won the award from the Secretary of State's office as having the best voter registration for college students, and that's one of the real kind of neat things about being in a college town is when they do get their first taste of being able to insert themselves into the political process.
And for a lot of them, it's the first time. They're fairly young when they get to us.
Right.
But again, so the university has a lot of programs to help you go register. And for many of them, it's their first time, I like to say, participating in the democratic process. And we want them to keep on doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going to be coming up for you? How do you take this election and use it in the classroom?
We're going to talk. I'm already thinking about that direction for this afternoon. We're going to be talking about.
So listen up, kids.
We're going to be talking about polling and the ins and outs of that, because we have an entire polling system in the college. There was the actual reporting. Mm-hmm. There was the on-air personalities and the issues and problems there. And then there was the election itself as an election. So what does this mean for example, the Federal Communications Commission? Or various agencies that deal with media. What's going to be the impact here? At this point, of course, we have some people talking. Do they really know? No. So it'll be some brainstorming back and forth. Let's get some good ideas from that as well.
And I think you're right. I think the polling question is going to be something that is going to be with us for a while, because the accuracy, you would think with technology it would get better and better, but it's getting worse and worse. So that's going to be one of the big pieces of fallout of this. But the election is now behind us. We go toward January 20th, and thank you for coming in today.
Enjoyed it.
And I hope this has been an hour of good information. I want to thank Alan Farley, Chris Davis, Sam Stockard for joining us for their portions of the program, and for everyone who listened today.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you much. All right, that is going to be it. If you missed any of this, you can catch it on the podcast section of wgnsradio.com. Brian Barrett has Rutherford Issues coming up, and that's all right here all day on the Big G, WGNS.